Hello, my name is Tia, also known as Costume Fiend because I'm both evil and excessively fond of dressing up. Growing up, like many black girls, I kind of took representation where I could get it, but often find myself having to relate to characters that didn't really look like me or have families like mine, because that was just what was more available. And also on a personal note, since I'm rather ambiguous looking to many people, even black characters that I could relate to more culturally didn't necessarily look like me. This isn't meant to be like a woe is me thing, though. I just want like where I'm coming from to make sense. Despite the fact that there's never really been a character in fiction that I feel like I can relate to in their entirety, I'm always on the lookout for black lady leads and in non-dramatic roles in particular. So when I heard about the show Invincible Fight Girl, I was intrigued. I'm not necessarily a big wrestling fan or anything, but many of the things I do enjoy in a way kind of overlap. Like, I realized it's super easy for superheroes, for example, to like translate into that world when you think about it, like the costumes, the dramatics, villains, epic team ups, and showdowns, and all of that jazz. With that in mind, and combining the fact that there's an obvious anime influence, I decided to give the show a go, and I unsurprisingly enjoyed it. There's only 3 episodes out now, 4, I suppose, by the time I share this. But to give a brief overview, Invincible Fight Girl was created by Justin Gordon Montgomery and is classified as an action comedy. The main character is Andronicus Dependent Smith, aka Andy. Her name is in part in reference to her coming from a family of accountants who, in true anime world fashion, live in a place called Accountant Isle. However, despite being born to be an accountant, the world Andy lives in as a whole is dedicated almost entirely to wrestling. According to the show's creator, growing up, all of the things that we know to be more performative and staged nowadays were understandably very real to him as a kid. And in Andy's world, all the wrestlers' abilities and personas are 100% genuine. People are still, of course, putting on a bit of a show, but that guy that looks like a bird is really a bird and stuff like that. This is where Invincible Fight Girl's anime influence shines through because that's pretty much what a lot of shonen is like. There are people that technically do other things, but for the most part, in the same way, One Piece is a world full of pirates, and the main focus of Naruto is all the ninjas. Invincible Fight Girl is a universe where wrestling reigns supreme. So far, even with just 3 episodes, I feel like the show has managed to make that feel convincing, and that's made for a lot of fun background character designs, including some Cowboy Bebop lookalikes, and I'm sure as I speak, people have found many more references. The main character, Andy, is entering this entire world as a newbie, and it's a we learn things with her type of situation. I've seen people say that the pace is slow, possibly for this reason, but I personally don't think so. I'm also like a huge fan of the slow burn, and having watched anime and read manga, I'm used to fights that can last episodes, so in a way, it actually feels like Invincible Fight Girl is moving relatively quickly. Like, speaking of One Piece, do you know how many seasons/arcs it took for them to even get their full crew? Like, with that in mind, while I am enjoying it so far, like I said, and I'm loving all the side characters, there's not a bunch to talk about plot-wise, so I'll zero in on 2 things. One, I love that Andy has supportive parents, and I love that and I love that to her parents, accounting is genuinely what they love, and that is how they were able to relate to Andy. Many anime protagonists are orphans or have missing parents or single parents, and in Western animation, as we see with the Disney princesses, that's kind of often the norm as well. I understand why that happens, and obviously not everyone's family is the same, but it is every once in a while refreshing to see black parents specifically love their daughter, even if they don't fully understand her. It's also nice to see that they enjoy their work and don't feel stuck. Annie just happens to find her joy elsewhere. The second thing I wanted to emphasize is the animation itself. I mentioned that the show takes after anime from a plot perspective, but the visuals are also very clearly inspired by anime too, as well as, like I alluded to before, some of the background character designs. This marriage of Western and Japanese animation reminds me a lot of the original Teen Titans series on Cartoon Network. It's very centered around feelings, which I love because it helps to fully take advantage of the animation medium. When a character is mad, we really see that they're furious, and so on and so forth. Also, in my opinion, the style is overall nice to look at. As for what I'd like to see in the future, well, first and foremost, I'd like to see more of it. The creator of the show, I believe, also stated Pokemon as an influence and clearly has a lot of ideas to extend the story for a while. Between streaming services and cancel happy executives, shows that last many seasons kind of feel like a bit of a lost art, and I, for one, would really like it if shows had room to breathe and grow again, especially after the recent cancellation of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, another really fun animated black light girl show. I feel like Invincible Fight Girl deserves to shine for 4 or 5 seasons at the bare minimum. Like I said, I'm loving the roster so far, but plenty of shows in the past and in anime don't even introduce fan favorites until 2 or more seasons in. Like, again, going back to One Piece, one of my favorites of the crew is Nico Robin, and it takes a little while for her to even, again, show up for the first time. In a world where wrestling is real, I'm beyond curious as to the type of people we could get introduced to down the line. On that note, I'd also love to see more about how this world operates in general. Andy comes from a place, again, called the Counting Isle. We've now seen that there's a bar owned by a few failed wrestlers, and what we've seen of the police so far, they're just robots. Plus, in episode 3, there's obviously a marketplace, and wrestlers can apparently be used as meat tenderizers. So I'm beyond curious about how everyone functions, and I'd be interested to see some characters that actually hate wrestling and how they operate in the grand scheme of things. It's always fun to see a heroine like Andy have to come across people that see her dream as a nightmare or have a completely different relationship to it. Andy's potential mentor slash idol, Kesa Problana, for example, seems to be retired and has lost interest in the sport. And Andy's just come across someone who's more into the journalism side of things. So having her come across a complete hater could lead to some fun interactions. Andy also, in my opinion anyway, needs to have a bona fide rival whose journey parallels hers in a way. Kesa Prablana's nephew, Craig, is shaping up to be a thorn in her side, but he doesn't appear to have any wrestling ambitions, so I don't think he really counts in that regard. Taking that into consideration, I also wouldn't mind seeing the Perm Gang again. They appeared in like the first 2 episodes as kind of starter pack rival villains type of deal. Not really though as permanent rivals like I mentioned before, just as a way to show how far Andy's come since the pilot. They have appearing once or twice a season for comic relief potential. And the bar I mentioned earlier has strong base of operations, and this is where you go to save the game energy. Actually, now that I think about it, this is slightly random but related. But if you've ever seen the Ragnarok episode of the DuckTales reboot in season 3, Invincible Fight Girl also has the potential to do something wild like that, with wrestling being at the center of the world. Diving into matches with really high stakes could get pretty fun. All in all, the point that I'm making is that the show could go to some really great places if it's given the chance to breathe, and considering Western animation still might very well have more animal and machine protagonists than black girls, we are in need of something that sticks really badly. So fingers crossed, and I hope this builds an audience. In the meantime, I mention it in my description, but I do have a coffee page. There's absolutely no pressure to tip me or anything, but if you like this or any of the other videos I've made, I wouldn't object to that kind of thing. But I get it. Obviously, we're all very broke, so yeah, either way is fine. Other than that, leave a like if you liked, subscribe for more nerdy rambling, and as always, have a good one.